to the week 3 case analysis presented to you by myself, Shay Howard, Anna Staub, Lauren Shrevka, and Brent Kennedy. We're going to be discussing the week 3 case. Our presentation will address millennials and where they're most vulnerable with regard to artificial intelligence and why, what measures that can be put in place for consumer protection, and what is the most positive aspect for both customers and businesses in a collection of customer data. One of the main concerns related to artificial intelligence is the collection and use of customer data. Companies often use AI to analyze consumer behavior and preferences and use this information to create targeted marketing campaigns. However, this also means that companies can potentially collect sensitive information, such as financial data, health information, and personal identifiers, which can be vulnerable to hacking as well as misuse. Companies collect vast amounts of data on consumers, including their browsing history, location data, and purchase history. That information can then be sold to third parties or used for other purposes without the consumer's knowledge or consent. This raises serious privacy concerns and highlights the need for stronger data protection laws and regulations. Millennials are often willing to trade their personal data for the convenience of online services, but they also need to be aware of potential risk. Companies may use their data for targeted advertising or even sell it to third-party brokers without their knowledge or consent. To protect their privacy, millennials need to be vigilant about the data they share online and read the privacy policies on the application and websites that they use. Millennials are often the most vulnerable to cyber attacks, as they tend to be the most active users of online services and social media. They need to be vigilant about phishing scams, the strong use of passwords, and keeping their software and security systems up to date. They are often a target of deceptive marketing practices and scams, particularly online. And it's important for consumers to be aware of their rights and to take steps to protect themselves. Businesses also have a responsibility to protect consumers from fraudulent or deceptive practices. AI bias refers to the phenomena where artificial intelligence systems produce results that reflect and amplify the biases and prejudices of their human creators and the data on which they were trained. This can occur when AI algorithms are trained on biased data or when human biases are inadvertently encoded into the design of the algorithm. AI is becoming more prevalent in everyday life, from personalized advertising to voice assistants, and has the potential to both benefit and harm consumers. One of the risks associated with AI is that it can perpetuate existing biases and discrimination if not properly designed and monitored. For example, if AI algorithms are trained on biased data, they may produce biased results. This can result in unfair treatment or discrimination against certain groups, including millennials. Companies can potentially collect sensitive information such as financial data, health information, and personal identifiers, and this raises serious privacy concerns and highlights the need for stronger data protection laws and regulations. Millennials are a key target for many industries, including finance, technology, and retail. As such, they need to be aware of their consumer rights and protections, such as the right to cancel contracts and the right to receive refunds. They also need to be wary of scams and frauds, particularly those that target them through social media and online advertising. Next up, we're going to talk about why millennials are vulnerable.
So why are millennials vulnerable when it comes to AI? More jobs may be done by AI in the future. A long-standing speculation and fear is that AI will take over a lot of jobs. While this has not been as fast spreading as some may have thought it would be, it is in fact happening. 37% of millennials are at a risk of having their job automated in the future. Well, this risk is not just for millennials. There is a large concern as millennials are becoming the largest bulk of the workforce as the years go on and baby boomers are retiring. Some jobs that are at risk of being automated are the first ones that come to mind are low-skilled workers, such as cleaners and laborers. But as AI becomes more advanced, other jobs are becoming at risk as well. Think of logistics and clerical workers, all the way up to data-intensive roles such as accountants and paralegals. So soon, everyone's jobs, not just for millennials, but a bulk of millennials' jobs will be at risk. Another aspect that makes millennials more vulnerable is that AI has been trained over time to learn what people like the most. And so when they are clicking on content and videos, it is trained to have algorithms that will populate videos and content that will keep them engaged longer. So, for an example of if someone is looking up gardening, they're watching a video on gardening. As soon as the video ends, 4 or 5 more videos are going to populate on gardening alone. When now something as mundane and benign as gardening may not seem a threat, it does become very risque and dangerous when it comes to politics, religion, and extremist movements. This can create an echo chamber of information where other opinions are not out there, and this makes millennials and particularly at risk because they are the first generation of people that have actually been online since childhood. There is a vast amount of data and personal information that helps build these algorithms to target them specifically.
I'm Lauren Schwartzel, and I'm going to be talking about what measures can be put into place for consumer protection. Starting off, we'll talk about AI and consumer protection. As information technology is growing at a rapid pace, artificial intelligence will accelerate the growth even more so. Data gathered through AI is fueled by machine learning and decisions algorithms that are designed to understand each consumer's wants and needs through a complex analysis of their online habits. 56% of global companies have implemented the use of AI, and usage is now 6% more than it was in 2020. Although AI has great potential and could accelerate many areas of research, there are downsides to using AI that include the violation of human rights and privacy, discrimination, ethics, and human control. Consumer protection is a must, and governments should put in place standards and regulations to mitigate the risk of a society based on surveillance, such as what is happening in China. There are some nations that have begun to seriously focus on data privacy and implement laws accordingly. In the US, the emphasis is on procedural fairness, transparency, and non-discrimination when it comes to data privacy, while in the European Union, the focus is on personal data, privacy, and fundamental rights. In 2018, the European Union implemented the General Data Protection Regulation, also known as GDPR. This regulation was put in place to enhance the EU citizens' control over their personal data that companies have access to. The 4 principles of GDPR include data minimization, accuracy, storage limitation, integrity, and confidentiality. GDPR requires that individuals are made aware of the information that is being held about them and how it's being used. And EU citizens have the right to request deletion of their data in certain cases, and companies have a limitation on how long they can store consumer information. In the US, the only state that has actually adopted the equivalent of the EU's GDPR protection rights is California. The state has implemented the California Consumer Protection Act, also known as CCPA, to govern data privacy and how global companies are permitted to handle the personal information of California residents. The principles of the CCPA include accountability, control, and transparency. Similar to GDPR, the CCPA requires that California consumers have the right to access the information that has been collected about them, that consumers are informed of how their data will be collected, processed, and stored, and that they're given an opportunity to provide consent of the collection and use of their data. Additionally, the CCPA gives consumers the right to opt out of their data being sold or shared with third parties, giving them control over their information, as well as the right to have their data deleted from company databases. From a US government perspective, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, is taking a stance against AI to discriminate in the hiring process. If companies are using AI and other machine learning to weed out what AI believes to be unqualified applicants and make employment decisions, doing so can potentially lead to discrimination. To prevent discrimination and privacy violations, governments across the globe should adopt policies like GDPR and the CCPA to implement privacy laws that safeguard people from negative repercussions from the use of their personal data collected through AI. This will be a balancing act, as needlessly limiting AI research will impede the progress that has already been made with the use of AI. Policies should include regulations around transparency, explainability, risk, and how often audits of data are performed. To be more transparent, policies should ensure that organizations disclose how they use AI gathered from social media and other sources in their decision-making. Organizations should also be required to explain the logic behind the data being collected, and automated decisions should be presented by an assessment that evaluates the risk to individuals. Lastly, regular data privacy audits will help to ensure that an organization's privacy practices are sufficient. This will also make certain that organizations hold themselves accountable for ensuring that data collected through AI does not discriminate against protected groups.
Now, when we think of customer data collection, we generally think of the benefit to the business collecting the data and not as much the consumer. The speaker in the TED Talk, Zeynep Tufekci, does well to focus on that side and noting the threats, such as when she says how the people in power will use artificial intelligence to control us and manipulate us in novel, subtle, and unexpected ways. It's perhaps what makes IA involvement so disconcerting, because AI systems are correlating data and targeting consumers in ways that even the human programmers don't fully grasp. This talk was interesting to me personally because it's 5 years old, which is really not that long in terms of history, but already since then, AI and customer data collection has transformed significantly. On that note, businesses use customer data in 4 main ways: to improve customer experience, to refine a company's marketing strategy, to transform that data into cash flow, and ultimately to secure more data. Now, when it comes to consumers, it takes a bit more digging to identify positive impacts, but research shows that consumers are impacted in the following ways listed on the screen. I would just highlight here the focus on customer experience and a personalized experience that consumers can in fact experience. The argument from the consumer side in support of data collection certainly gets less support from the general public, but there are some compelling arguments for it. In fact, one of our readings, Customer Data, Designing for Transparency and Trust, from this week addresses the customer reluctance to surrender data collection, not just businesses profiting. It states consumers appreciate that data sharing can lead to products and services that make their lives easier and more entertaining, educate, and save them money. Neither companies nor their consumers want to turn back the clock on these technologies and the development and adoption of products that leverage personal data. So in summary, if you had to choose one combined benefit, it might have to be continued improvement and overall personalized products and services. The potential for abuse of data collection powers is well documented, as discussed by our team, as described in the TED Talk and in widespread literature. In an ideal world where all businesses are trusted to comply with ethical practices, this can in fact be a good thing, though with the increasing influence of AI, it remains unknown and unpredictable where these threats will take us. Zeynep Tufekci initiated a very intriguing discussion surrounding AI and data collection, and we hope our thoughts and research have helped shape your understanding as well. So thank you.